You know, there are some mistakes in life you can fix. You forget to pay a bill, you pay a late fee, and move on. You miss a doctor's appointment, you reschedule. But there are other mistakes that just sit with you, the kind where you realize years later what you could have done differently. And by then, the window has closed today. I want to tell you about one of those windows. It's called the Roth conversion window. And my friend Walter missed it completely. Walter and I go way back. We worked at the same company for almost 20 years before I left for another job. He stayed and retired at 62 with a nice pension and about $600,000 in his 401k. When he retired, he was so relieved to be done working that he didn't want to think about money at all. He figured his pension covered the bills and his 401k could just sit there and grow. He would deal with it later. Well, later came faster than he expected. Walter is 75 now. Last year, he had to start taking required minimum distributions from his retirement accounts. His first RMD was almost $28,000. That $28,000 got added to his pension income and his Social Security. It pushed him into a higher tax bracket, and it triggered something called IRMAA, which raised his Medicare premiums by over $200 a month. When Walter told me all this over coffee a few months ago, he looked defeated. He said, "Robert, I had 13 years between when I retired and when these RMDs started. 13 years where I could have moved some of that money into a Roth IRA and paid taxes at a lower rate. But I didn't know. Nobody told me, and now I'm stuck paying more taxes for the rest of my life." That conversation has stayed with me because I almost made the same mistake. When I retired at 65, I had about $400,000 in my traditional IRA. A friend of mine who knows more about this stuff than I do sat me down and explained something I had never heard of. He called it the Roth conversion window. Let me explain what that means, because I think a lot of people our age have never heard this term. When you retire, you usually have a few years where your income drops significantly. You stop getting a paycheck. Maybe you haven't started Social Security yet. You definitely haven't started taking RMDs. During those years, you might be in the lowest tax bracket you'll ever be in for the rest of your life. This is the window. This is when it makes the most sense to take money from your traditional IRA or 401k and convert it to a Roth IRA. Yes, you have to pay taxes on the amount you convert, but you're paying those taxes at a lower rate than you would later. And once that money is in a Roth, it grows tax-free. You never pay taxes on it again. Not when you withdraw it, not when you pass it to your kids. Never. And here is the other thing. Roth IRAs don't have required minimum distributions. That money can sit there and grow for as long as you live. You take it out when you want. Not when the IRS tells you to. Walter didn't know any of this. He let his 401k sit untouched for 13 years. It grew from $600,000 to over $900,000. Sounds great, right? But now he's forced to take larger and larger RMDs every year. At 75, the IRS life expectancy factor is 24.6 years. So his RMD this year is $900,000 divided by 24.6. That's $36,585. He has to withdraw that much, whether he needs it or not. And every dollar of it is taxed as ordinary income. Compare that to his neighbor Ellen. Ellen is the same age as Walter and retired around the same time. But Ellen did something different every year from year. Age 63 to age 72, she converted about $50,000 from her traditional IRA to a Roth. She paid taxes on those conversions, yes, but she paid them at the 12 and 22% tax brackets. That's the key. She filled up her lower tax brackets each year without spilling into the higher ones. Over those 10 years, she moved about $500,000 into her Roth. Now that she's 75, her traditional IRA balance is much smaller. Her R&D is only about $12,000. That's $24,000 less than Walter, which means $24,000 less in taxable income, which means she stays in a lower tax bracket, which means her Medicare premiums are lower. which means less of her Social Security is taxed. The ripple effects are enormous. And that Roth money she converted is now worth over $700,000. All of it tax-free whenever she needs it. When I heard Ellen's story, I felt two things. First, I felt grateful that my friend had warned me in time. Second, I felt sad for Walter because he did everything right his whole working life. He saved diligently. He didn't touch his retirement accounts early. He followed all the rules, but nobody told him about this one strategy that could have saved him tens of thousands of dollars in taxes over his lifetime. Now I want to be honest with you about my own situation. I didn't do Roth conversions as aggressively as Ellen did. I was nervous about paying the taxes. Up front, I converted about $30,000 a year for 6 years. Looking back, I wish I had done more, but even that modest amount has made a difference. My RMDs are smaller than they would have been. My tax situation is more manageable, and I have a nice pot of tax-free money growing in my Roth that I can access whenever I want. The question I get asked most often when I tell people about this is it too late for me? And the answer is almost always no, it's not too late. But it does get harder every year. If you're already taking RMDs, you can still do Roth conversions. But there's a catch. You have to take your full RMD for the year first. You cannot convert your RMD. It's a use it or lose it situation. So if your RMD is $30,000, you have to withdraw that $30,000 and pay taxes on it. And if you want to convert an additional $50,000 to a Roth, you can. But now you've got $80,000 in taxable income for the year. That might push you into a higher bracket. That might trigger IRMA surcharges on your Medicare. The math gets more complicated once you're past 73. That's why the window between retirement and RMDs is so valuable. That's the sweet spot. That's when you have the most control over your taxable income. Once RMDs start, the IRS is driving the bus. You just have to hold on. Another thing I want to mention, because it comes up a lot. Some people say, well, what if tax rates go down in the future? Why would I pay taxes now if rates might be lower later? It's a fair question, but here's how I think about it. First, nobody knows what tax rates will be in 10 or 20 years. The current rates have been extended, but Congress can change them anytime. Second, even if rates stay the same, your income will probably go up. Social Security kicks in, RMDs get larger every year as you age. Pensions and other income sources stack up. You might be in a higher bracket later, even if the brackets themselves don't change. Third, and this is the one that convinced me, when one spouse dies, the surviving spouse becomes a single filer. Single filers have much narrower tax brackets. A married couple can have about $94,000 in taxable income and stay in the 12% bracket. A single filer hits the 22% bracket at just over $48,000. So the same income that was taxed at 12% suddenly gets taxed at 22%. This is called the widow penalty or the widower penalty. It's brutal and almost nobody talks about it. Walter is married. If his wife passes before him or he passes before her, the surviving spouse will be hit with significantly higher taxes on those RMDs. Ellen did her Roth conversions partly for this reason. She wanted to protect whichever one of them is left alone. That's thinking ahead. That's what I wish more people our age understood. Now let me give you some practical steps if you're thinking about this. First, figure out where you stand. What is your current taxable income? What tax bracket are you in? How much room do you have before you hit the next bracket? Second, look at your retirement accounts. How much is in traditional IRAs and 401 kiloseconds? How much is in Roth accounts? Most people our age have way more in traditional accounts because that's all we had access to for most of our careers. Third, if you're between retirement and age 73, this is your window. Talk to a tax professional about how much you could convert each year without jumping into a much higher bracket. Fourth, if you're already past 73, it's not too late, but you need to be more strategic. Take your RMD first, then evaluate whether additional conversions make sense. Fifth, whatever you do, pay the taxes on your conversion from a separate account. Don't withhold taxes from the conversion itself. If you do, you're essentially losing money that could be growing tax-free in your Roth. Let me share one more thought before I wrap up. When I talked to Walter, after explaining all this, he said something that really stuck with me. He said, "Robert, the hardest part isn't the money. The hardest part is knowing I had time and I wasted it. I had 13 years and I spent them not paying attention. Now I will spend the rest of my retirement paying for that." I don't want anyone watching this to feel that way. The Roth conversion window is real. It's valuable. And for many of us, it's closing a little more each year.